I'm going to start off with a statistic. Did you know that while the average dog lives just 10 to 13 years, and only 1 in 10 Americans makes it to age 85 in good health, we now have tools to change that? Thanks to groundbreaking science and research into what's called the hallmarks of aging and the continued rise of integrative medicine, which has been so important, we can actively support longevity in our pets and in ourselves. And tonight, I am honored to welcome a mentor and a dear friend. If you've ever wondered who helped shape the future of pet wellness, it's this guy. For over 40 years, Dr. Marty Goldstein, better known as Dr. Marty, has been a trailblazer, a maverick in integrative veterinary medicine, and he's been bridging the gap of conventional and complementary to help animals not only live longer, but thrive. He's the author of the books, The Nature of Animal Healing and The Spirit of Animal Healing. And his latest venture, Dr. Marty's Pets, has brought species-appropriate real food nutrition to pet parents across the world. You may have seen him featured in a very cool documentary on Netflix called The Dog Doc that gives people a look behind the scenes at the practice that he founded all those years ago and healed so many animals in. It's fascinating and it's beautiful, and I encourage you to watch it. You may have seen him on national media, sharing his philosophy on vitality, prevention, and the wisdom that animals teach us. Tonight, we're really blessed to learn from one of the most respected voices in the field. So I am honored and so happy to welcome Dr. Marty. Hey,
Hello,
Marty.
everybody. It's over 50 years, dear.
Oh my
Not
God.
40. Yes,
Sorry.
I have reached the category of old.
Well, you know, I tell people when I talk about you that you're 78 and you don't wear glasses. So, boom, there you
Yeah,
go.
not only that, it's not that I'm lucky or have strong genes. As a matter of fact, my gene pool was very, very weak, and how I got into all this weird stuff
Mm-hmm.
is I was taken after the males on my mother's side of the family. Degenerative arthritis, male pattern baldness, was losing all my hair in the 20s. And out of fear and vanity, I searched for the truth. And I stumbled upon, the first thing was nutrition, uh, Eastern philosophy, acupuncture. What's really interesting is now all those males, every single one of them, that I had the same gene pool, they've been dead between 12 and almost 50 years.
Wow.
And I'm now 58 years older than my youngest daughter, and almost never get sick. And it's not luck, it's just applying the fundamentals of nature to the physical body. It's not
Exactly.
more complicated than that.
And we're going to talk about all of that because there are some basics, some foundationals that we can't get around. Um, There's also things that this fascinating area of longevity study are focusing on that we know we have to mitigate in the world today that we live in. All of the environmental toxicity, the toxicity all around
All
us,
around. Yeah.
right? Foods we eat, air we breathe. Um, so the oxidative stress that that causes and what happens as the body ages for us and our pets, right?
You got
So,
it.
yes, so we're going to talk a little bit about those things, mitochondrial health and cell signaling and, nutrition is the foundation of the house. Um, in your experience, Marty, what are some of the most common early signs that a pet is aging sort of faster than they should? And how can we catch those signs before they become irreversible?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're so used to it now that it's more difficult to detect because, every chronic major degenerative disease has at least tripled or quadrupled since I graduated Cornell Vet School in 1973. I mean, it's
Mm,
such a shame. I mean, obesity is epidemic, dull coat, gooey eyes, lethargy, limping, and the biggie is lumps, tumors.
mhm.
So, you know, we need such a wake-up call. I am really blown away by how technologically advanced our profession of veterinary medicine has become. But while that's happened, and these MRIs and the ability to detect, a microscopic tumor inside the brain or spinal cord, and the fact that we were able to figure out the metabolic pathways and the NADs and the ATPs and all of this stuff,
Yeah.
despite all of that, health is not on the rise. I mean,
Yes.
the Morris Animal
Talk about
Foundation
that.
study on golden retrievers. They
Mhm.
said in the 70s, the average golden lived till 16 and 17. Now it's 9 to 10, and over 80, 66 to 80% of them get cancer. So
Mhm.
where have we gone in the field of healthcare? I'd like to share a couple of things and set up the boundaries for this talk tonight.
Okay.
I wrote two books. The first book is considered the Bible. And in the beginning of the book, I laid down 17 or 18 fundamentals of healing. At that point, the book was done, but Random House commissioned me to write 263 pages, and I only had a page and a half. So the rest of the book was going back to each one of those things. And then in my second book, I wrote a whole bunch of other fundamentals. If you know these fundamentals, everything else is secondary. It's why I am still as healthy as I am based on the fundamentals. So, to set up the boundaries of today's talk, I'd like to just read a couple of short ones.
Good.
My last book, number one, my definition of science in the field of medicine is man trying to figure out what nature created. So, as technologically advanced as I said we have become, we can't build a body that can heal a cut. Nature did all of this. So when nature does something in the body, like create a symptom of disease or an inflammation or a fever, you
Mhm.
don't want to go against that. And unfortunately, the fundamental of the medical establishment that I learned being at Cornell for 9 years was the three Ds: how to diagnose disease and drug it,
Mm.
stopping nature. Number 13, my lucky number, health is not rocket science. Unfortunately, this is what medicine has become. And, I really like science, but as I said, science is nature trying and man trying to figure out what nature created. And a lot of time, egotistically, man takes over, thinks it's more intelligent than nature. So I've been working with you for like 600 years. And you are one of the sharpest people I know and have worked with, especially in your ability to research and apply that to not only people but to animals. So during this talk, I want you to be Lou Nye, the science guy, and I'm just going to go on a lot of common sense and then just a couple of more. Disease, this is the first one I ever wrote. Disease is an absence of health and vice versa. Health is an absence of disease, but health was here first.
Mhm.
That's a biggie
Yeah.
because disease came because we started to do something wrong. And as a fundamental to this talk and everything we're going to discuss, not only science in the field of medicine, but science in the field of longevity. The degree to which we have to work towards health is directly proportional to the amount we have messed it up in the first place. Health is simple, Disease brings in complexity. The field of medicine and 4 years of medical school is one of the most complex things you could ever go through. But nature and health is very simplistic. And
Mm.
we've complicated that so much. When I graduated Cornell, it was about approximately 1 out of 10 dogs got cancer, and it was always a disease of the old. We were taught in our differential diagnosis, if you see a young dog with a lump, you eliminated the possibility of cancer based solely on age.
Mm.
According to the AVMA right now, 1 in 3 dogs get cancer. According to the study I wrote about in my last book on the Institute of Canine Biology, an amazing study, 1 out of every 1.61 dogs get cancer, and it's a prominent disease in the young right now.
Mm.
So we have strayed so far from healthcare, especially in this profession. We have to get back to that. And healthcare, I've had two associates over the last 50 years to a point that I've documented so many reversals of chronic degenerative, hopeless, non-responsive cases from hospitals and universities that I'm now getting accepted. And you know why? Because I consulted two associates constantly. Those two associates were common sense and Mother Nature. And they are not taught in the curriculum. So as we go through this, there
Mhm.
are many, many, many ways to heal anybody. No, you could go on a fast, you could exercise, you could take supplements, you could eat right, you could take this supplement, you could take that supplement. But always realize in the background of all of this, that doesn't make as much difference as respecting your own immune system or your dog or cat's immune system or your horse's immune system and what it's trying to do. Period.
Okay. Okay. So let's pause there because you've said some really powerful things. Um, we now hear sort of the framework of how far we've strayed from
Yes.
the intuitiveness of our bodies to do what they have been designed to do, what our pets' bodies have been designed to do, which is heal, and messing with that, messing with nature, making things more complicated than they need to or should be. So let's talk about for because not everybody here is a Dr. Christina Chambro or a Dr. Jeff Feineman or a Lou Paradise even. Let's break down some key things that help us get out of the way of our bodies. Because if we give our bodies what it needs to do what it's designed to do, get out of its own way, it will do that. It will heal. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about that. If
Well, it was laid down in 1875 by this cat named Herring, the law of cure.
mm,
All cure starts from inside out, from the head down, in reverse order as symptoms have appeared. We, unfortunately, as doctors, don't like those symptoms. So we suppress them with chemicals,
mhm,
and that adds to the disease complex.
mhm,
And I mean, in my first book, the most important chapter I wrote, and I read it every year, even though I wrote it 27 years ago, it's called The Healing Crisis. And it's as you start to work on your health or your companion animal's health, they may start to develop disease symptoms. One of the fundamentals I wrote in the book is health is not about what you put into your body, is what about you let your body detoxify. The reason I've stayed so healthy over the years is I will go on major detoxification programs at least 8 to 10 times a year and clean the crap
okay.
out before it forms a disease or an arthritic joint or a tumor. And it
Mhm.
comes out in the form of, you know, itis is Latin for inflammation. What is inflammation? An aspirin or a cortisone deficiency? No, it's nature sending in its arsenal to heal an area. So, that's the biggest takeaway I could give to anybody, especially all the associates I train,
Yeah.
is as they were working on a case. and the case was doing well, and all of a sudden got sick. It was like, oh my God, how come the drugs? No, back off.
Well, we're learning more and more too that good and poor health starts in the gut microbiome,
Oh yeah.
something that we didn't pay much attention to until the last few years. And chronic inflammation has recently been added to the 12 hallmarks of aging as an official because chronic inflammation equals disease. Well, it starts in the gut microbiome. I
Big.
learned a shocking statistic, and this applies to us and our pets. Um, most people have leaky gut. Maybe all of us have leaky gut in varying degrees. So it is that to just sort of break that down, when you have leaky gut, you have minuscule tears in that mucosal lining of the gut microbiome, those junctions, and things that are supposed to stay within the gut microbiome, the things you eat and the byproducts of that, end up getting out into your bloodstream, causing chronic inflammation and
And
symptoms
disease.
and disease.
And yeah.
So, addressing the gut microbiome is a foundational piece for us and our pets. And that brings us really right around to the foundational piece of that, the foundation of the house, which is what we eat. That's one piece of it. So let's talk about that a little bit because I can't tell you how many times, and I'm sure that you experienced this when you were practicing. People don't know what to feed their animals. And today it's even worse. They go online and they do research, and it's like drinking from a fire hose and so much conflicting information. It's like, what do you believe? So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's very simple. If scientists studied the way dogs and especially cats ate in nature, we'd have never created the pet food industry as we have come to know it. Period. It's not more complicated than that. And when we start hitting into the microbiome, I'm going to bring up somebody's name. And he wrote the first book on biologically appropriate raw food, the BARF diet. Syrian Billinghurst. The guy is a trip. And when we get into the microbiome, I'm going to share some stuff that he shared with me in a lecture up in Saskatoon, Canada, that blew my mind. But that's it. It's biologically appropriate diet. Once again, not scientifically appropriate diet. Like all these science diets. Yes, they will work. They'll work for the disease, just like if you were constantly tired and I gave you some amphetamine, you would really wake up and feel good, but then you would degenerate and die. And these scientifically derived diets are not conducive. They're cereal based. I mean, look at the label on so many of these foods. Purina, the biggest selling food of all time, is made by Ralston. Ralston made wheat checks, rice checks, and corn checks. It's a cereal company.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the handful of certified veterinary nutritionists, they're actually coming out and stating that corn is the most ideal source of amino acids for dogs. Give me a
Oh
break.
my
You
God.
know, you you know the answer to that after you graduate kindergarten. Show me one tooth in a dog or a cat's mouth flat for grinding grain. I
Yeah.
mean, it's sick.
So let's break down for a moment because we have so much to cover and we don't have that much time. But let's break down for a moment a species appropriate diet. So people listening that may not be familiar with that know what we're talking about. And I want to say that this is not a judgmental space at all, and that we all do our best with what we have for our animals. And sometimes it's a matter of compromise,
Yeah.
which is better than not doing anything at all. So,
Yeah, and finances plays a big role too. I mean, a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of people can't afford to feed
yes.
their pets biologically appropriate diet.
And
It's
a
a
lot of
shame.
people can't afford to feed themselves high quality food.
Yeah, and no, it's a shame.
So it's definitely a terrible state of affairs. And but just to sort of break it down so people understand where we're starting from. So way back in the day, when dogs were wolves, cats were the big cats, they made a kill
Yeah,
and they ate the whole animal.
yeah,
And normally they would start with the organs because their bodies knew that that was the most nutritionally dense food. And they'd eat the muscle meat and they eat the bones and they eat the skin and they eat the fur, great fiber and everything. And then they may not eat for a couple of days.
yeah. Or sometimes they'll actually bury it and let it naturally ferment, and not doing it to let it naturally ferment, but it will naturally ferment, then dig it up again. Fermented foods are really, really
Great.
healthy. And we're afraid of bacteria.
Fermented foods are like our gut microbiome's best friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
So
same with
so
our
you're
pets.
so you're you're right. Like I said, if scientists studied the way dogs and cats ate in nature, they would have never created the pet food industry to be what we've come to know it. Period. So yeah,
So,
predominantly meat, not meat byproduct. Go
right.
online and look at AFCO's regulation on what chicken byproduct meal is, and you'll get sick reading it because it has nothing to do with chicken.
Hmm.
It is absolutely disgusting and vile. But when we look at the label, and because especially after the pet food recall debacle in 2007, there was a shift in the pet food industry more towards feeding real food and meat-based food. So if you see the first ingredient on a label saying chicken byproduct meal, that ain't meat.
Hmm.
Period.
Great.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I don't want to go too deep into this because we do have a lot to cover, but it's very important that our animals get muscle meat and a variety of it because every type of meat has its own amino acid profile. And while some overlap, not every amino acid overlaps. So you want to make sure that
Correct.
you do a variety of meats and you don't want to feed one or two of the same meats over a long period of time because you can also create sensitivity, food sensitivities, allergies, and things like that. So muscle meat, organ meat, raw meaty bones. It's wonderful if supervised. You can have your dog or cat chew on an appropriate, raw only, meaty bone for their weight, their size, and their chewing type. And you can look more into that
Yeah.
because all of those are really important. And then there's, you need some fiber. So while cats are obligate carnivores, dogs don't really need to have any carbs. You can have some beautiful vegetables. And we recommend, heat kills vitamins and minerals. And when you have to add them back in synthetically, they can cause inflammation. So you want to get as much as you can from the real food. So put some beautiful vegetables with some water into your food processor, break it down into a puree, and put some into your dog's meal every day. That's going to be wonderful. And then things like bone broth and raw goat's milk,
And I
fermented
don't mind a little fruit, even though I really got into the
fruit.
food combining. They will eat a couple of blueberries in the
Yeah,
nutritional contents. Plus, the antioxidant level is so high. And some
exactly.
seeds, and seeds, you're going to get you a prebiotic to feed the probiotic in
Yes.
some of these little seeds and stuff like that. And you're
Yes.
actually simulating nature.
Yes.
Duh.
Yes. So what I want to do is I want to dive into some of these hallmarks of aging and talk about, from a common sense point of view, how we can mitigate that. So I'm going to refer to notes because there are 12 of them and they're not all stored up here. Um, so things like one is called genome instability. And basically all that is our DNA replication has errors. And when we're young, there aren't many of them. But as we age, the error rate of the DNA replication piles up. And it causes cells to be unable to create the proper proteins to maintain good health. So, in this process of more and more DNA errors, even cancerous cells can be triggered if the right circumstances exist. So, that's one. You must have heard of, or you may have heard of telomeres. They're these
Yeah.
caps on the ends of our chromosomes, and they protect our strands of DNA from sticking to other strands, which would be a really bad thing. And they protect the ends from fraying. As we age, as our pets age, they shorten. They
Yep.
shorten. And telomere shortening has, for a long time, been equated with aging. So that's one of the hallmarks. When they shorten, it's called a deficiency, a telomere deficiency, and it makes the body less able to repair itself. Epigenetics, this
Yeah.
is fascinating. And this is something I do want to talk about rather than just gloss over, because you guys can look into the hallmarks of aging. It's out there and familiarize yourself. But epigenetics is something we have control over. It
Yeah.
is the genes that are expressed versus unexpressed in our bodies and in our pets' bodies. And we know enough today, and this is mind blowing. We know enough to suppress the genes that we don't want expressed, disease type, genes, and to express those that we do, ones that help reverse aging, create longevity. So that
That's
is
the
a
biggie.
really fascinating topic. And do you want to talk about that for a little bit, Marty?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, that was one of the basic fundamentals in book one is that if I followed my genes, like I said early, I'd be fat, bald, crippled, or most likely dead.
Yikes.
So genetic predispositions are always there, but they don't have to manifest if you keep the body healthy, period. And I've taken a lot of patients that had genetic predispositions in their breed to the diseases they were developing or about to develop and had them turn back the clock to be healthy. And those genetic weaknesses are always there. And if I start to mess up, and go out, three parties in a row and stuff like that, I will get my arthritic signs in my left shoulder back that I had in my early 20s. It's always there. But if you take care of yourself, that's the biggie. The
Yeah.
epigenetics is the expression of the gene pool you're born with, and they don't have to express if you follow the laws of health. It's simple.
So let's talk about that for a quick second. The laws of health. What could reverse aging? Well, it's sorting out the gut microbiome for us and
Very
them.
important.
That is going to be nutrition and certain supplements to heal that mucosal lining of the gut. And surprisingly, possibly for you, enough, we share so many supplements. This is what Marty did back in the 70s.
This
We
was my
share so
expertise.
many supplements with our
Yeah,
pets.
that
So
was my expertise. And it was,
yes,
when I
yes,
graduated Cornell, there was one supplement for animals in the United States. It was called Pet Tabs, made by the drug company Beecham Massengale. It still exists. Now you go to the Global or the Super Zoo trade show, and there's 1.2 billion supplements.
yeah,
And as
it's
great
crazy.
as that is, there's a lot of confusion with it. My definition of a supplement, or what it should be, is a concentrated food to make up for the deficiencies in either the food chain or in the gene pool that was passed on genetically from generations of horrible diet. So
Mm.
that's what a supplement doesn't supplement the patient. It supplements the diet. And it should be a
And
concentrated
mitigates
food.
what's going on out there.
Yeah, it should be a concentrated food, not like you said before, a synthetic, which
Yeah,
is actually recognized by the body as a chemical.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
supplements are so important. especially if you want to increase your telomere length, you want to get the caps back on, you want your mitochondria to work. It's through proper diet and supplements are the two keys. And there are supplements specifically for telomerase. There's supplements for mitochondria now. There's a
There
zillion
are.
supplements right now. And that's what's
Well,
really,
one thing that I want to share, Marty, is, and there's one more thing that I think is important to health. And I'm sorry that Dr. Jeff isn't here right now because he would relate to it. And Christina, you absolutely will as well. But um, we're going to send people away with a longevity stack. So foundationals and then longevity supplements for that kind of mitigate the different hallmarks of aging. So that's something that I'll put a link up in the chat before we end tonight, and you can go and pull that off of my Google Docs and get that. But one other thing that I think is so important, and I included in my book, and Dr. Marty, you wrote the foreword of that book, so I know you
yeah,
know
it's a great
this.
book.
Thank you. It is mind mastery. We become what we think about all day. And we have control. We can learn tools to control that because that stimulates a cascade in our bodies of chemical reactions that can cause inflammation or
Oh yeah.
happy things. And it's the same in our pets. Our pets are so intuitive. They feel what we feel. Dr. Jeff Feynman created the happiness protocol. I talk about it all the time. It is doing what your pets love to do because it makes them happy. And when they're happy, serotonin, dopamine, all these nice, beautiful, happy hormones are raised in their bodies. Cortisol levels, balance out. And they feel good. And when you feel good, your body tends to create positive frequency. And good health is a high frequency, right, Marty?
Yeah. My first book I entitled The Nature of Animal Healing. And nature had two meanings. The nature in which the body heals, like we talked about, creating disease symptoms, and nature is the healer, not the doctor. The second book is called The Spirit of Animal Healing.
Mm.
And it not only is it in the spirit of healing, bringing to a higher level, like you just said, but how much the spirit, the emotional plane, can heal the body. And I've seen it, it's amazing. And I wrote this in that book. I mean, we did a 6-week survey about 15 years ago at my practice, and my clients, just mine, not my associates, over that 6-week period, my average client was 590 miles away from my clinic. So I
Wow.
was seeing them from all over. And
Yeah.
when they come in, you know, and they're dying of cancer and they only can stay for 2 days, you have to rush things along. I would send them home with 8 or 10 supplements because we don't have time.
Mm.
But the local clients that would come in and their animal is terminal, it's dying. The number one oncologist in the United States says your dog has 6 weeks to live maximum. And they are depressed. The dog looks like absolute hell. And I would spend the first half hour of a 1 hour consult showing before and after pictures and lifting their spirit up and bringing in this amazing word called hope, not
Mm.
false hope.
Mm.
And they would leave there happy and they would call the next day for the blood results. I wouldn't send any supplements because they lived locally. And it's like, hey, how's she doing? She's already a little bit better. We didn't do anything except got the people to get happier
Oh,
and to feel hope. And
yeah.
and there it is. I mean,
Yeah.
you hit it on the
There
head.
it
And
is.
we ignore that. That's not taught in medical school, for
No, it is
sure.
absolutely not taught. But thankfully, more and more people are learning about this. And the work that people like Bob Proctor did with
Oh
mind
yeah.
mastery, and the work that people like you have done in integrative medicine are now starting to come together more and more because people are realizing that it is a mind, body, spirit
It's all
situation
three.
when you heal.
And
Yeah.
anyone that says that dogs and cats don't have spirits,
Ah,
they're not people I want to talk to.
I know. I know. So, okay, just to kind of run through some of the rest of them quickly and then, maybe hone in on one or two that are especially pertinent. There's something called loss of proteostasis, and their proteins are folded in a certain way in the body. And as we age and as our pets age, they more and more become misfolded. And when they become misfolded, it like is a disruption in the processes in the body that maintain health. So, you want to be able to discourage that type of thing and encourage the body to be functioning at an optimal level because misfolded proteins can lead to things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cataracts, doggy dementia, those types of things. So that's proteostasis. The body, something called deregulated nutrient sensing, which is really how the body responds to cycles of eating and not eating. It's the body, when we were talking earlier about how dogs can go for a couple of days not eating after a kill or bury it and eat it later, you know, they just had this innate sense of allowing their bodies time. I mean, it was nature. They didn't have a whole lot of control over it either, but allowing their bodies time to heal, process, create something called autophagy, which
Autophagy.
is the
That's the biggie.
body knocking out misshapen or cells that aren't functioning, these
Yep.
senescent cells, which is another hallmark of aging, cells that just aren't working right anymore. And cells like senescent cells are created more and more as we age. Same with our pets. So that kind of delayed eating, cycling eating, um, uh, intermittent fasting and doing fasts. These are the kinds of things that trigger the body to clean itself up.
Yep.
It's like that, little iRobot cleaner that goes through the body and cleans things up. Do you have something to say about that, Marty?
Well, my mentor in writing my first book was Arnold Ehret, who wrote the book Rational Fasting in the 1800s.
Oh
I
my goodness.
saved my life and reversed everything by doing a 7, 9, and 11-day distilled water fast in 1 year.
Wow.
And that's how I learned all of this stuff. I started to detoxify even my genetic predispositions. It was just amazing. And then that was one of the first methods I was using on some of the cancer patients.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how, you do a really good controlled fast, and you have to know what you're doing, especially a dog with a bone tumor. And then all of a sudden, after the seventh day on carrot juice or something like that, I'm not recommending doing this, but all of a
No,
sudden,
you'd
you start
never
to
do
see,
things like this without supervision from a
yeah, we
knowledgeable
started to
vet.
see that bone tumor shrink.
Yeah.
So, that's nature at work. And, the big word is autophagy. It's
Yeah.
the body eating its own bad stuff and getting rid of it.
Yes,
That's a biggie.
exactly. And I mean, this stuff is, you and I have a habit of getting on the phone every, couple of months for an hour and just downloading like two geeks about all of this cool stuff that we learn about and that we're doing or whatever. So to me, this is fascinating. We have the tools and the knowledge today to turn back the clock for us and our pets.
Definitely.
Mitochondrial dysfunction, that energy center inside our cells that produce ATP, the energy that allows the body to do what it needs to do, all the functions, greatly reduces. It reduces as we age, as they age. These senescent cells have something to do with it when they accumulate. These senescent cells can damage nearby cells, their neighboring cells. They can say, come on over to senescentville, and they will. And they'll become cells that are partially functioning and maybe even not functioning at all and just taking up space. We don't want that.
It's the biggest thing of the future of longevity medicine or healthcare.
Mm.
The mitochondria is the control panel of the cell. We think it's the energy cell, the battery of ATP, that's one of its many, many, many functions. The studies that are being done on mitochondria now with the electron microscope and how they intercommunicate, how they found a lot of mitochondria outside of this cell. And one thing I'm going to recommend for everyone out there, it's my buddy Ian Billinghurst, Pointing the Bone at Cancer. And it's mind-blowing because it takes the birth of cancer back 2 billion years ago.
Wow.
And the way the mind, life, the Earth was 4.5 billion years ago. Life started on the Earth 3.7 billion years ago, and there was no oxygen. So the first one cell beings on the Earth back then were these tiny little anaerobic little things. And then a bacterium about 2 billion years ago that created the process of photosynthesis was either engulfed by the mother lode thing that was existent, or it tried to attack that and it got engulfed. And instead of being killed, they set up a symbiotic relationship. And that photosensitivity bacterium became the mitochondria.
Mitochondria.
And
Crazy.
even though cancer is considered genetic, that's an influence. The switch for the cancer to be turned on dates back 2 billion years ago. Whether you're going to create energy through anaerobic glycolysis, which is going to create cancer, or aerobic phosphorylation. And that's where the key is. Even in a current
Explain
modern day,
that.
yeah, even in a modern day being, a person or an animal, they if the switch within their body, why does someone get cancer and someone doesn't get cancer? That switch in their body on how to create energy to function could be either created in the presence of oxygen or in the presence of what's called glycolysis, anaerobic glycolysis, which creates toxins and ammonia and stuff like that, which feeds cancer cells.
Hmm.
You know, one of the things that I started to bring forth, and a great book was just written on it by Margot Roman, is I was using a lot of ozone therapy, injecting into tumors, injecting it intravenous, stuff like that. Simple. Disease exists in or creates an oxygen depleted environment. So bring oxygen to an area and the disease can go away without going on Google, without taking supplements, without doing this. That's why aerobics is so healthy. So simplistically, oxygen is the cure
Mm,
for cancer.
mm, mm. It's beautiful and it's very exciting how this all happened. I mean, the body is just
Yeah,
ingenious.
I recommend everyone get this book and read the history of cancer in there. Cancer is a mitochondrial disease. It's not a virus. It's not a this. It's not a that. 5 trillion dollars a year is spent on this planet looking for the cure for cancer, the cause, and they're looking in the wrong direction. The cure for cancer has been here forever. It's called health. Oh, it wasn't for his tumor. He was in great shape. Bull.
Okay. The next thing that is a hallmark of aging is called stem cell exhaustion.
Yeah.
We know that stem cells are an integral part of our body. They go to whatever organ system needs them at the moment. So they're not necessarily linked to one particular job, but they go where they're needed. And as we age, really, once we leave our 20s, we're making far less stem cells. And as we age and age and age beyond that, we're making less and less and less. We have the ability in several ways to generate stem cell production in our bodies, in our bone marrow. And that is critical. There are supplements that can do it today. And Marty, do you want to talk about a couple of things that maybe are outside the supplemental realm that can help generate production of stem cells in the body?
Yeah, this is where I like science coming into the field. You could extract blood or you could
Mm.
extract fat from a patient, isolate and concentrate the stem cells. I had it done on me when I had a severe hand injury.
I
And it
remember.
was, 90 cc's of fat was taken from one of my love handles. It was isolated over 3 hours. It was injected into my carpal tunnel from the injury, and my purplish hand of 2 weeks turned pink in 1 hour.
Mm.
So we could concentrate stem cells when your body can't, because you're aging or disease, can't concentrate and send stem cells to an area. Medicine and science can. And I think it's an amazing science. And then, PRP is like pseudo stem cells, where you're extracting cells from the plasma-rich, platelets,
Mm.
and injecting it back into arthritic joints. Um, the guy that got FDA approval for stem cell therapy in veterinary medicine, Bob Harmon, he and I became really good friends. He got FDA approval, and it's just some amazing stuff. So this is where something like science is fascinating and so needed. So instead of trying to enhance your body with supplements to make its own stem cells, just take some of your fat that you're not using, turn it into stem cells, and re-inject it back in, or have your doctor re-inject it back in. And
Mm.
there are a lot of MDs doing this now because it's accepted science.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Marty. So the next one is altered intercellular communication.
Mitochondria.
Our cells start breaking down and how they communicate with each other. And so the instructions to the body, the various organ systems of what needs to be done is affected. And over time, it's affected more and more. There's something really interesting that I want to throw out there called aloase mannan. Aloase mannan is something that I'm actually taking right now. It's part of a supplement called GSH, which stands for glutathione. Glutathione is our body's strongest antioxidant. And it has been shown, there's been a bunch of studies done with aloase mannan in improving cell-to-cell communication. Um, it's something I find really interesting. You may want to dive into it and find out more for yourselves. We don't have the bandwidth today to go deep into anything, but aloase mannan is a very fascinating uh, inclusion in supplements today. There aren't many of them, but you can find them out there. And it's going to be included in the longevity stack that I'm going
We
to
were
be giving you
using
guys.
Ace Mannan at least 20 years ago. It got either FDA or USDA approval for treating fibrosarcomas in cats.
Mm,
And
really?
you'd inject this into their belly and into the tumor, and it would break down. But we found unpublished studies on immunosuppressed animals, and you'd give them Ace Mannan either into their belly or intravenously, and they were bounding back like AIDS type cats, feline
Wow.
infectious viruses, and they were bouncing back. So it is an aloe extract. We were using it in practice at least 20 years ago. Amazing
Wow.
stuff.
Wow, 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 wow. Okay, so that is beautiful. Compromised autophagy, we've talked about that already. As we age, our bodies are not sloughing off, cleaning up house, so that, sort of intermittent fasting and water fasts, things like that, controlled fasting with your animals is going to help bump up autophagy. Microbiome disturbance, we talked about that.
Biggie.
It all begins in the gut microbiome, all good and poor health. Deal with your gut microbiome. And I'm going to put something out there to everybody. I don't have any vested interest in this, but there is a test called Biome FX. It is for people, not for pets, that is a step above your GI map tests and all the ones that have been around forever. It tells you, yes, what's in there, but it tells you what they're doing. And when you can see exactly what they're doing and how what's something called proteobacteria, the byproduct of how your body is digesting certain foods and things like you mentioned earlier, Marty. Oh, Jody. Um, Oh, one of the byproducts, one of the proteobacterias that's awful in the body. Anyway, there are several of them. It shows you everything and it makes it very clear to say, okay, I can see where my symptoms are coming from. Ammonia is what I was thinking of.
Oh yeah.
Um, and you can have a plan through this test and the practitioners at this company to go from where you are and heal your gut microbiome and get to where you want to go. And
That's a
that
biggie.
changes everything. So BiomeFX, you can look it up and get some information on it. Number 11 is altered mechanical properties. This we're not going to talk too much about. There's scaffolding, in and around your cells. It's beautiful. It breaks down as you age. It causes problems with the body operating optimally, and you can learn more about that. The last is splicing dysregulation, and this is really an RNA thing more than a DNA thing, the middleman for your RNA. When these changes in RNA occur, this splicing dysregulation is the result, and it leads to proteins that are misformed and dysfunctional proteins, and therefore it leads to aging. That's another thing that you can look into more. So, I mean, we're at 7:25. We've covered a lot. What I would love to do now, Marty, is I'd love to make sure that some basic things for people are addressed, because they can look into more about the hallmarks of aging, and you'll see from the longevity stack the different types of supplements that address each of these hallmarks. So hopefully that will be helpful.
And
Um,
one of the biggies right now, which I got my company to subsidize, is all the new science on advanced glycation end products.
mm,
These are substances caused by the Maillard uh, chemical reaction, and they're
right.
responsible for immune suppression, for free radical buildup, for allergies, for inflammation. They're the culprits, and what causes them to form in foods is the heating process.
Yes.
And right now, and I just got, this was presented to the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Foundation 3 hours ago. My company is now willing to fund a $700,000 study where through 6 different universities in the United States and around the world, we are going to build an international index on how to detect advanced glycation end products in any food testing. It's going to take about a year, and then we're going to bring it into the veterinary schools, fund it for the students and the interns to apply it to health and disease markers. But this is the biggie. So you could take a food that has the greatest ingredients in the world and heat them at high temperatures. Not only are you going to destroy the vitamins and nutrients and enzymes, but you're going to create these advanced glycation end products, and especially in the human field. I mean, it's amazing that char on a piece of barbecued food that you think is so tasty, that has more advanced glycation end products than is the minimum daily requirement for your body in a month. These are things that we're going to bring out. Why is there so much disease? Environmental toxicity, all of the stuff that we talked about. But AGEs is a biggie.
Mm.
And over the next year or two, we're going to expose this into the pet food industry.
Yes, and every kibble, it doesn't matter if it's designer kibble, or if it's from Petco, uh, they all have to go through, as do canned foods, they all have to go through several high heat processes to
Yep.
make them what they are. And every one of those processes creates the AGEs.
Yeah, this is a
Um,
biggie.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it definitely bears looking into. If you can't go completely away from kibble, add a fresh food topper, something that your animal's body can recognize and use to mitigate the other stuff and the environmental toxins.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep. Yep.
yes. The other thing that I want to bring to people's attention is Some of this information tonight came from a book that that Marty recommended to me a couple of months ago. It's by Dr. Gary Richter, who is another integrative veterinarian, very respected, and it's called Longevity in Dogs, and he also has one, Longevity in Cats. And it is fascinating. I highly recommend it.
Yep,
It not
I
only
agree.
goes, yeah, it not only goes through all the hallmarks of aging, and that's coming from the people who are at the top of this field in the human space, and all the ways we can apply it to our pets, because not everything that we can do in the human space today can we yet do in the pet space, but it's coming. It's all coming.
Yep.
So there are ways and things we can do now. And it talks about all different lifestyle things that you could address to reverse aging, something that is near and dear to my heart and Marty's. So let's see if there's anything else here. Do people want to ask some questions? How about let's do that now? We covered a lot of information and there's more we could cover. Are there any questions that anyone has? We'll give a couple of minutes for that. Iris, anybody asking anything?
I have a question. Sarah
Okay,
here.
Sarah.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi.
So, hi. I have a 5-year-old Chihuahua mix who has she's having some trouble with her legs and her joints, and I've been giving her, the glucate, what is it for the?
Glucosamine.
Glucose.
Thank you. Yes, I've been giving her glucosamine. I have her on farmer fresh food with the farmer's dog. Nothing really seems to be helping it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any recommendations?
Where do you live?
I live in Los Angeles.
Then it's probably not, but tick disease is all over the United States, and its number one symptom is non-responsive or alternating joint problems. And because I dealt
Okay.
with so many clients all over the United States, realize that people from Connecticut, where Lyme disease started, fly to LA all the time. So one thing
Sure.
you must rule out first through your veterinarian
Okay.
is tick disease. And if it's that, a simple treatment could reverse this. Acupuncture works well. Stem cell therapy works really well for
Oh.
non-responsive joint problems. The glucose, it's funny, but my license was threatened in 1978 for treating arthritic dogs with glucosamine sulfate because I wasn't using standardized drug therapy. Now they sell a $500 million a year. But
Oh,
the
oh my
green lip
gosh.
mussel extract,
Yes, green lip
it
mussels
also a
are
very
great.
powerful joint anti-inflammatory, and eggshell supplements, also a very
Oh,
supportive.
Yes,
And
great.
okay.
And then
seeing an integrative
Sarah,
veterinarian.
we could talk
Yes,
offline
thank
as
you.
well about the food piece. Okay?
Okay.
All
Awesome.
right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you for asking, Sarah. Anybody else have a
Thank you.
question?
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, my name is
Hi.
Allison. I have an 18-year-old cat. He came to me in 2017. He had been, he was a rescue and he was in pretty bad shape. And so I started him on Primal. And I'd been going to Whiskers for a long time
Oh,
before,
God.
Yes, we both
Yeah,
love Phil very much.
yeah,
God
yeah. So
rest
I
his
learned a
soul.
lot. Yep, I learned. Did he pass?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God, I've been out of the city. I didn't know that. Oh my
Yeah, good old
God.
Phil. One-legged
Oh
Phil.
my God. Oh my God. He brought me through so many animals. I mean, so
Me too.
I was set to go. We left the city. We moved to New Mexico. My both cats became indoor outdoor. They loved it. So anyway, he his best friend, my other cat, she died in 22, and we went back upstate to New York for a while. In any event, and that was
Mm.
traumatic for him. But in any event, he always had bad teeth, and like his breath was dreadful, and it just wasn't like top on my. He was unstoppable, in so many ways. And then in about 20, I guess it was in 22. I did take him to a vet and they checked his mouth and they said, boy, he really has a lot of tartar or gingivitis, but he's too old, for surgery. So, fast forward, he's still hanging in there, and his teeth, we're back in New Mexico now. I had a vet come and do a chiropractic on him, and it was really great. And she looked at his mouth. She said the same thing. This is terrible. And she wanted to do surgery, and she thought she did blood work and thought he was, up for it. But I don't want to do that. And I treat him with frequencies. I have a pretty powerful frequency generator, and that seems to be he's passed several teeth since then. I've had him on dental programs, and it doesn't seem to be traumatic. But what has happened is he has not been eating good food. I went off of Primal several years ago, started making his food, which was pretty much chicken with some kind of vegetables or chlorella. And he was always good. And then all of a sudden, and he loved sardine treats, but so he doesn't want anything to do with sardines. He doesn't want any of the homemade food. And that's been going on for several months. So I'm
Allison,
constant.
can I cut in for a sec?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, only because we have limited
Please,
time.
yeah.
Do you have a
of course,
specific
yeah.
question about
I'm
your
sorry.
cat?
Yeah, the question is like when their teeth start falling out, he's very finicky now. He was never finicky before. And he's very finicky now. And I'm constantly going to the store, and he seems to like this for a while, that for a while, but not so much, And so I'm just wondering, when they start losing teeth, is there something specific I should feed him that you can recommend?
Well, from my experience, I studied in the latter part of my career the negative effect of a horrible mouth on the rest of the body, and it
Yeah.
is amazing and intense. The
Yes.
mouth is
Yeah.
like Grand Central Station to the rest of the body
Yeah.
energetically, and the body is constantly being bathed in infection. And to
Yeah.
me, it's not even worth living a life. If this was you, you'd be constantly living in pain and a
Mm,
septic system in there. We, at my
mm,
practice, did dentistries on animals up to 23 years of age. And it's amazing how 4 days after that, they become brand new. Their life, not
really?
that I'm telling you to do this, but
Right,
this
right.
has been my experience. And everyone's afraid of the heart under anesthesia. The heart is
Uh-huh.
actually safer under anesthesia because you're getting pure oxygen, the blood pressure is down, and stuff like that. We never held back on any animal that had severe dental disease in
Mm,
fear that something bad would go wrong. Because if you put fear in the way, then you're allowing your animal to live a horrible life. That's just my opinion, not saying you should
mm,
have the teeth done.
Hmm.
mm. Well, I will, Marty, thank you for that. And I'll tell you this though, since his teeth have been falling out, um, his breath has really cleared up.
Oh, good.
So,
Now, I know on the East Coast, there
mhm.
are services that do professional non-sedative dentistries. The one
Hmm.
that's over here on the East Coast is called Houndstooth. There may be some where you are. And
Okay.
we had them come into our practice, and I was blown away how effective they were getting into not cleaning the teeth, but cleaning the
Mm,
periodontal spaces
Wow.
without
mm,
sedation. So
Yeah.
it's another thing
mm.
to consider.
Okay.
And how do they sedate the animal though? Like,
It's
so, I
non-sedated.
mean, I can't imagine it's non-sedated, but I
Yeah,
can't imagine my cat allowing that to happen. That's what
that's
my
a whole
question
They're
other
they're
is.
other
very well
space.
trained. I've seen them take 110-pound semi-mean dogs, and the
Uh-huh.
way they have learned non-invasive restraint, I was blown away. So, and not that you should do it. It may not even be available where you are, but it's something to
Mm.
consider because the quicker you get these rotten teeth out, the better this being's life is going to be.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you,
Um,
Allison.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
We are already almost 10 minutes over. I really want to respect people's time. What I'd like to do is leave a link in the chat for the longevity stack that I mentioned. So let me grab that and get that for you and put it in there. So everybody has it. Everyone in meeting. And there we go. So there's the link for the longevity stack if you want to click into that and download it. Just a couple of takeaways. We have the power today to slow down and even reverse aging. And there are some basic foundationals like food, fresh food, like how we think, like handling the gut microbiome, and some foundational supplements that most humans are deficient in. And interestingly enough, dogs, at least, a lot of them are deficient in as well. So looking into those types of foundationals, and you'll see them in the stack, is very important. And then to see what makes sense, what resonates for you in terms of mitigating some of these other things. For Marty, his Dr. Marty Pets, food is food that's easier to feed. Somebody's got an active lifestyle. They want freeze-dried raw. You know, this is easier. You don't have to refrigerate it. You can take it anywhere you go. I suggest to my clients, and I do this when I travel, is I take freeze-dried raw. Yes, you could take raw. You could figure it out, but it's so much easier to take a high-quality food that is freeze-dried for the time being that you're away. And if you have a lifestyle that makes it easier to use that too, Dr. Marty's Pets for dogs and cats is something you might want to look into. The other thing that I want to throw out there is, because I didn't really say this at the top of the meeting, for anybody that doesn't know me, I am a certified health coach for people and pets and an author. And my whole jam is reversing aging and finding ways to stimulate our bodies to do what we're designed to do, which is heal. I wrote about it in my book, Think and Grow Young, which Dr. Marty wrote the foreword for. It is really that three-pillar approach: cleaning up the gut, mind mastery, we become what we think about all day, and supercharging your immune system. It's out there on Amazon if anyone's interested. Marty, any last things that you'd like to say in just closing before?
Yeah, I mean, the really important thing is that anyone out there, especially with a sick pet,
Yeah.
you know, if I had cancer, I wouldn't go online to treat myself. I would find someone like me to help treat me. And a lot of veterinarians are waking up to this. If your veterinarian is not up for this, ahvma.org, the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association, has a listing of all the integrative veterinarians in the country, in North America, state by state, city by city, and what they practice. And that's my number one piece of advice: is it's always better to work with a professional instead of trying to figure it out or asking advice by email or internet.
Great piece of advice. Thank you so much, Marty. And thank you so much for being here, for your wisdom, for, the knowledge that you impart on everyone, that you did impart on everyone tonight, your heart. I really appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship, and I appreciate everything that I've learned from you. And I highly recommend seeking out Marty's books because they're a wealth of information.
Thanks.
Yes. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, you can reach me after. I'll put my email in the chat. And other than that, let me just get that in there.
Jody,
Yeah.
where would you had a lot of great information, and I'm sure, someone like me, I would love to go back and rewrite some stuff down. Will you
We
be
will have
uploading
a
this on your
replay.
YouTube? Okay.
We thank you, Iris.
You're welcome.
We'll definitely have a replay within the next 24 hours. I'll send an email out to everybody. on, the link for that, which will be on my YouTube. And thank you all for sharing some of your evening with us tonight. I hope you
Yes, I
found
agree.
value here. Thank you. Thank you, Marty. Thank you,
It's a
Iris.
pleasure.
Hi, Chris. Thank
Keep
you
up the
for
good work.
joining. Thank you to everybody for joining tonight. Have a beautiful rest of the night.